Hello and welcome. You're watching News9. We're bringing you stories from the world of business policy and economy. First up, IndiGo has responded to reports of buying majority stake in Go First. It appears that the reports were all rumors and IndiGo has now denied buying any stake at this juncture. Also on the show, trouble is mounting for Go First as Delivery moved NCLT against debt-ridden airlines, saying that the voluntary insolvency filed by Go First was in fact fraudulent. We'll get you more details on that story. Also, passengers traveling through Delhi Airport, the Delhi's Indira Gandhi International Airport, can now use Digi Yatra facility without actually downloading the mobile app. How does the app work? How do you travel without the app? We'll get you all that and more on the show. And users have traced as many as 2.5 lakh missing phones through Department of Telecommunications' new AI a facility that they launched just about a couple of weeks ago. What does the new facility entail? How can you track your missing phone if at all you miss your phone and it's not to be found? All that and more on this bulletin. Joining me at this point in time is my colleague Krishna Kumar right here in the studio. Also with us is Mark Martins. It's a deviance from our usual practice. We have a guest to talk about all that is happening in the aviation sector. Krishna, let me directly go to Mark at this point in time. It is an important story of aviation sector overall in general, but more specifically, the news of IndiGo trying to buy a stake in Go First. Mark, thanks very much for joining us this morning. Any truth to those reports that we're hearing?
Good morning, Shweta and Krishna. Great to be on TV9 with you today. These are rumors that are created by market makers and market players. And I think we got sucked into this whole thing yesterday when word traveled fast, and there was one media outlet who actually republished and rewrote that story, which was, I think clearly we all, whether it's us as experts, whether it's, newspapers or media or brokers, we need to act with far more maturity, because the poor common investor is going to get hurt end of the day, because rumors like this spike the stock price up without any fundamentals or basis, and what happens is eventually people get burned and they get hurt. And it is absolutely ridiculous that someone could even expect an IndiGo, which is 4 times the size of a Go Air, okay, to buy Go Air with 35 aircraft grounded and no revenue. I mean, why would you be so stupid to take on debt and liability both at the same time when you have your own airline to run and you have your own organization to manage? And guess what? You got your own Pratt & Whitney induced groundings on your Airbus fleet. So I found it absolutely, fundamentally baseless that an IndiGo would consider a Go Air. Now, if somebody turned back and said a Qatar Airways or Oman Air or a foreign airline was interested in Go Air, that would have been far more believable, at least to some element. But we all know this. Nobody buys a stake in anything unless you do a comprehensive due diligence and you get to the bottom of what you're buying into, right? I mean, eventually that's money from your own pocket. And why would you be so foolish enough to erode that? So, so that was on the Go First IndiGo bit, which I thought was very, very unfortunate that it got spread in such a rapid manner.
Okay. Specifically on Go First, I understand that IndiGo, obviously the reports, we have to act more maturely than breaking those stories right when it's being reported by and regional newspapers. Not much merit there, but IndiGo absolutely trying to clarify that this is not something that we're looking at this point, Krishna.
Right, because things are precarious at this stage, even for Go First, considering the issues that Go First is going through with its own insolvency proceedings and emerging out of it and finding a way to get the fleet of aircraft in the air. The IndiGo, a top player, first of all, Shweta, it has a lot to lose and a lot to gain with something like this. Surely it doesn't want to lose anything. Surely it doesn't want to spook its own customers and its own stakeholders, with these kind of reports doing the round. So making that clarification is what I believe is happening at this stage.
Okay, absolutely. Don't want to spook anybody at this point in time. But the report was quite extensive there. It also, in fact, gave a timeline to the merger and acquisition of up to 5 years. So, of course, I mean, there's no, as they say, there's no smoke without fire. So I just want to understand whether there's
that's
any
what
merit.
IndiGo is saying. That's what say. This is smoke without fire is what IndiGo is saying.
Absolutely. Right, and I want to quickly also understand from you. We are also tracking the Go First story, Mark, and it's a story that is building with each passing day. There are statements that are coming in from ministry, also from Go First officials. The latest that could hurt Go First's prospects, as many are calling it, is the fact that delivery has moved to NCLT, saying that the insolvency proceedings filed by Go First are in fact fraudulent, to the point that they took money, the payments from us a day prior to going to NCLT. How could that impact Go First's IBC proceedings, if at all?
Shweta, I'm just going to briefly step in on what Krishna said. I completely agree with him, and I think clearly no airline, especially a Go Air or an IndiGo, would want to shoot itself in the foot just when we're dealing with a capacity shortage in this country. So Krishna is absolutely spot on, and the way the report was written was so ridiculously detailed. I think that should have been a giveaway, right? I mean, we're all smart folks, aren't we? We do, why on earth?
Counterintelligence.
Yeah, absolutely right. And coming on to what you spoke about Go Air. Now, we have to be very, very clear. When an aircraft is grounded, you are compensated in cash by an OEM. You are given money, okay, whether it's your bank, whether a bank is going to lend you, because that loan has reached dispersal. The Pratt & Whitney has already paid you the $50,000 for 2 aircraft. But then guess what? That $50,000 and the money you get from a bank is not enough to sustain your operating expenditure. An average aircraft lease is about $250 to $300 a month, and multiply $300 a month, with 56 aircraft, and that's what you need to pay every 30 days. So, I mean, I wouldn't say it's fraudulent. I think the fact that you've got self-disclosure, you walked into NCLT and you said, look, my books are open for scrutiny. Come and review me. Take a look at my liability. I'm declaring my liability. I've got to pay people 10,600 crores. That's my deduction. Okay, that's what I believe I need to pay. So, I believe that any company that goes over to, NCLT, or let's call it what it's universally called, which is your Chapter 11 bankruptcy, it's always with the whole element of prove me bankrupt and then I'll make myself bankrupt, and then you sell me so that the banks can be repaid, and my debtors and creditors can be given their money back. And this is what we see, Shweta, with an IndiGo, with a Go First, is identical to what we've seen with United Airlines almost 20 years ago. So this is not new. It's new in India because it's being done for the first time, and we're all a fish out of water here. We're trying to decipher and break the details.
Mark, if I were to ask you simply put, we just thought that Go First was on its way back in the air. Its fleet is going to get off in the air any moment now. But then this entire thing throws the proverbial spanner in the works, doesn't it? This entire NCLT proceeding, delivery, calling the entire insolvency proceeding a sham. That's strong terminology, and also the fact that it's extremely suspicious that they took such a big payment the day before they filed the insolvency. This case, there is certainly you can take that adage. There is no smoke without fire when it comes to this particular case, for sure.
Yeah, no, Krishna, you're absolutely right. But then you know what? It's going to get worse. You're going to have everyone start putting claims before the NCLT. Some guy sitting in Singapore gets up and says, Go Air owes me $50 million. I gave him that money in 2010. You're going to have lessors turn back and say that, he never paid me the deposit. You're going to have SBI and all the banks jump in and say, oh, with interest and late payment fees, they owe me $3 billion. So, there's going to be no end to this. And that's why it is before the NCLT and the bankruptcy courts. The courts decide the fate of the airline. Should we shut it down for good? Should we end the charade and, auction everything back and all the company assets and pay back the debtors and lessors and everybody? Or guess what? Let's just keep it alive so that they have an opportunity to make money and return that money, and we restructured the debt. And obviously the latter is true, because in that case, you're giving investors hope that they will, and not just hope, you're giving them an assurance that, you are going to get paid, hang in there. When you start going into insolvency proceedings, which usually is just nothing but a market auction, if you're owed 10, you probably would be lucky if you get paid a 1.5. And no one is willing to take that much of a haircut, because guess what? We've seen the worst before. We're talking about Go First here. Let's not forget, exactly 12 years ago, we saw a Kingfisher Airlines fold up with 160 aircraft. Now, explain that. We know the debt that SBI owed to Kingfisher. We know how much of money was at play. Now, this has happened before. This is history repeating itself again and again.
But Mark, the whole thing was that since they went in for voluntary insolvency proceedings, the hope was that this is the right way of going about it. In fact, we discussed this on the show a couple of days ago. I'm talking about how some people were praising with the fact that they did the right thing. When things got difficult, they sort of bit the bullet, so to speak. But look at how this has turned out into a Pandora's box.
Yeah, you used the magic word there. You said the magic word was voluntary, and that's what can get them off the hook here. If I get up and say, guys, I owe you some money, but I'm going to walk into the bankruptcy court and seek bankruptcy protection. Remember, when you're an IBC, you need to be proven to be bankrupt before you're declared bankrupt. Now, how that works is everybody, whoever owes you or who you owe money or have anything or any IOUs, that guy is going to show up in NCLT and say, you know what, he owes me this money and I need my money now. So the whole idea with any bankruptcy court in any part of the world is to gain clarity of what the actual liabilities are of the airline, how much is willing to be restructured, how much is the principal amount, and how much should be paid back. Paid back either by the airline or by selling off the airline or by auctioning the airline or by just, declaring it insolvent, selling the airline and its assets for scrap and pay back all the money. So, but to come up with a strong, such a strong accusation of this is a fraud, when you've allowed NCLT and everybody to, come and have a free day with your financials, your balance sheet, your bank balance, your bank records, and all of it. I mean, that takes a lot of guts, right? And it's going to get, like I said, it's going to get even worse. Let's not forget, 3 weeks ago, Shweta and I spoke about how AWG got up and said that, oh, this is going to compromise leasing in India, and India is now going to get in the red list and blacklisted. Well, guess what? What was AWG doing when Kingfisher Airlines folded up 12 years ago? Where was AWG when the Jet Airways folded up just about 3 years ago? Where was AWG when SpiceJet couldn't pay back for 56 aircraft? From 56, they came down to 3. Where on earth was AWG? So, again, we're coming back to something which we discussed before, which is everybody is trying to manipulate the situation for his or her benefit. We saw in the case of what happened with that newspaper and that media.
How do we stop it?
Right?
Mark, simple question. Everybody is manipulating the situation. What is the right way of going about it right now? Because it's the customers, the consumers who are suffering. Because one airline in the largely fledgling domestic airline industry of India is down. And ticket prices have gone up. And then we've got a massive tragedy. Right. Ticket prices have gone up even further.
That's right. That's right. And guess what? It's not because it's, we honestly didn't need a Go First. The writing was on the wall. We lost 150 aircraft with Jet Airways, so that should have been an alarm bell. And then we saw 50 aircraft of IndiGo grounded because of Pratt & Whitney. Guess what? That makes it 200. We saw a TrueJet, we saw a Costa, we've seen, Carnival, 4 airlines fold up. That's another 35 aircraft. We have 20 aircraft of Air and 26 aircraft of Air India, which is grounded. So we already have a negative of 300 aircraft, which are not flying. So it's a no-brainer. The cost of travel is going to not just skyrocket, it's going to reach ridiculously high levels. But where on earth are we trying to soften the blow and make of airline operations a bit more reasonable for people to fly? But I mean, there's a very good reason why airlines fail in this country is because they've overburdened it so much that the level of survivability is pretty rough.
Okay.
You know, now tell me something.
But you know, Mark, apologies to come in there. You know, on deliveries argument, and they have a very specific argument. They're saying that the airline received an upward of 1.5 crore rupees from the delivery domestic cargo consignment, but never acted on it. So essentially, their argument is that we paid up Go First to deliver certain cargo. They knew that they are going to file for insolvency. I mean, these are things you defied well before you actually start doing them or you actually execute it, essentially saying that they took the money from us but never acted on it. So there seems to be some merit there in the arguments that are being made by, the delivery partner, Delivery in this case.
Yeah, in all fairness, this, if I'm going to, if there's a payment that gets realized this morning and I've already put my cogs into action for declaring filing with the IBC in the afternoon, then granted, everything that is in my bank account, with whether it's tickets, whether it's booking for cargo, whether for it's whatever it is, that money gets secured and that has to be paid back no matter what. It has to be refunded, and that's a no-brainer. But 1.5 CR, that's just about $150,000. I mean, that's not even the money you make from one flight. If you do the math, you sell an average ticket at 6,000 rupees into 189 seats. I mean, look at the amount of money you make on one flight alone. And we're talking about 500 flights a day multiplied by 56 aircraft, right? So the quantum is humongous in terms of day revenue that an airline makes. And we all know that you only pay for expenditure and fuel when you have paying passengers sitting in the back of your aircraft and you're about to fly, you know? So is this a severe, grave, was there a malicious intent by Go Air? Was there a fraud? Was there manipulation? Was there willful, a willful act by Go Air to swindle somebody of a lousy 1.5 CR? Like, really? Is that even something to be talked about? Kingfisher pumped out billions of rupees on fake leasing contracts into islands in Cayman, Mauritius, that we all finally, eventually, when the cat was out of the bag, we knew how much money Kingfisher pumped out and cleaned the whole airline financials and bank accounts dry. Okay, how come we never screamed fraud then, and we're still slugging it out in courts? So if something is wrong, it's wrong. I condemn it, and I'll always condemn it. But there are checks and balances in place, Shweta. If they've taken money from somebody, it will be refunded. Whether it's a kid who wants to travel back to her parents in Roorkee, her 6,000 rupees for a ticket will be refunded. Whether it's whoever it is, if you're owed money, that money comes back to you. It might not happen overnight. It may not happen in a couple of weeks or a month, but it eventually happens, because thank heavens we still have, the International Civil Aviation Authority on top of all of this, who have defined certain conventions that everybody must follow. And the DGCA's primary job is to enforce the ICAO, as we all know, right? So if they need to enforce the ICAO, then they have to execute those refunds at some point in time, even if it means that the NCLT will step in and say, all right, I'm taking custody of all your accounts. I'm refunding all the money back to passengers and cargo and service providers and whatever they are. And then let's figure what we do with this. Now that decision goes to NCLT.
Okay. Before I let you go, last time you were on the show, you gave a timeline as to when you can see or you expect Go First to go back to skies, and it was, if I'm correct, end of June, early July. We are already in it's the 9th of June today, and we know of a plan that has been submitted from Go First to DGCA, Civil Aviation Ministry. They're all looking at the flight resumption plan that Go First has submitted at this point in time. How long before we see Go First going back to skies?
I like the big grin on Shweta and Krishna's face when they asked me that question. It's, I'll be honest with you. I've been the CEO of 3 airlines in my career, and when you and I'll be very blunt and honest with you folks today. Restarting an airline is possibly one of the toughest ever steps to take. When you shut an airline down, it's seldom you restart. But we have somebody here, a Go Air, who's brave enough to say that here's my plan and I'm going to restart. They spoke about, you remember, Shweta, we spoke about 27th of May, right? Mm-hmm. Now, and I said I'm expecting it by the 15th of June. Okay. So, and I think I did mention this to a couple of others that we are, ideally, it should be 15th of June. My guess is by the time the DGCA, because let's be honest, I mean, this is the DGCA we're talking about. They're not some super efficient organization running SAP, right? Okay, so this is the DGCA. And that file is going to sit on someone's desk for a while. And by the time they eventually form a committee and come to that decision, that itself takes 30 days. This is the same DGCA that takes, by the way, 3 months to register an aircraft, by the way. Huh? So this is that DGCA, okay? And so if they submitted that application, I think, when was it? I think June 1st or something, they submitted the application. Today we're sitting on the 8th. Yeah, sorry, we're sitting on the 9th today. And then it's not going to happen anytime soon. I think by the time, even for Go Air, they need to actually call up all the vendors, fueling suppliers, airports, and say, look, guys, we can't pay you on credit anymore. Let's park that money aside. We're going to pay you cash and carry. So every time we operate a flight, here's your money. Okay. That arrangement, getting into those agreements, putting down some money, it takes a little time. I mean, imagine Go Air is flying to what, 48 destinations. That's 48 suppliers, 48, galley catering services, 48 ground handlers. It's a humongous list that you got to call up and get everybody's consent. So I think they were being very, very aggressive by coming out and stating that, oh, we're going to start by the 27th of May, or we're going to start by June 10th. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to take a little more time. But we need to get back in the skies, because guess what? As Krishna rightly put it, the consumer's suffering. We have paying passengers who are in a messed up spot. You've bought a ticket. You don't know which, you can't fly a Go Air because they're grounded. But then guess what? Instead of the DGCA going harsh on them, what the DGCA should tell other airlines is, just accommodate this passenger, take another $2,000 and let them fly on IndiGo or Vistara or AirAsia or Akasa. So these are, when the chips are down, everybody needs to come in and support. But what we've seen, which is absolutely appalling, is other airlines not willing to accept these passengers, but in turn, jack up the price by nearly 400 to 500%. That's unreasonable. And I'm going to say one thing before I close here. We've got a regulatory authority and a body for everything. To control stock market manipulation, we have SEBI. To control insurance and wrong, transactions of insurance, we've got IREDA. To regulate and bring ethics and standards in real estate, we have RERA. To even for telecom, we have TRAI. And guess what? For airports, we have Airports Economic Regulatory Authority, right? Tell me something. Why don't we have an air traveler regulatory authority and appellate tribunal in this country? We are the world's largest air travel market. 1.4 billion people, 22% of that is our traveling public. And that traveling public, majority of it is less than 30 years old. What stops us? Every other country has an air travel appellate tribunal and a regulatory authority. Why does the Mantri Saab have to step in every time and be Turum Khan and Daroga Saab and, call the shots? The DGC has forget managing aircraft and overviewing safety. They can't even do that as an effective function. How on earth is the DGCA going to regulate ticket pricing? And we've created these organizations for everything, from insurance to telecom to even airports economic regulatory. And by the way, guess what? Delhi just got one airport, which is a monopoly. What are you going to regulate in pricing there? I still don't know. But anyway, they've done it. Why can't we have something for air travelers? Why does you and I, or the average traveler, if his baggage doesn't show up, the only recourse is for him to go to the High Court? He can't. He goes to the DGCA. You know, it's to deaf ears. He goes to the ministry. They throw him out. Where do we go? And on top of that, we've created this whole environment where, oh, we're going to get 2,500 aircraft. We're going to be the largest market. Where are the mechanics to facilitate and support it? And this is something which even I've taken up with the Ministry of Civil Aviation through the economic advisor. I took this up in 2017 and 18. You know, the whole idea is that some initiatives are a no-brainer. It's high time we did it. But we're not just doing it at all. And that is something which is a major concern for me. We've lost the plot in all of this, Shweta.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Fair enough argument. We absolutely need a central body, a regulatory body for all passenger grievances. It is an important sector, and although we don't have one just as yet, there is some positive news coming in. If you are to enter the airport through the Indira Gandhi airport, you can now use Digi Yatra facility without actually downloading a mobile app. I mean, Mark, if I were to come to you, we've come very far from the fact. And when the COVID peaked, and I remember taking a flight right after COVID, we went faceless. We could do it all. It was seamless, moving through one point to another point in security. It was in fact as good as any other Western airport out there. And now we seems to be only making strides when it comes to seamless connectivity and travel in airports. This, of course, is good news.
Well, on the lighter side, with the Digi Yatra, with not needing the app, it's still going to take you 3 hours to board your flight. So, and in any airport in the world, it takes you 45 minutes. But okay. the bigger concern here is, where did they get my data from? Where did they get my information from? How do they know what I look like? How do they have my fingerprints? Is that what you and me, as citizens of this country, I never signed up for my data to be shared with an airport operator so that he knows everything. And we know where he's getting it from. He's getting it from the Aadhaar database. Mm-hmm. They've got your fingerprints. We've linked Aadhaar to our bank accounts, our blood tests. You know, I mean, I won't be surprised if a Starbucks and a coffee day asks us for an Aadhaar number as well tomorrow, right?
So, I hope that's not the case. I know that the government has said that you shouldn't be making your Aadhaar data available to anyone and everyone
that's
out
right.
there.
So, but this is, you know, the airports.
So let me quickly also add. Let me also quickly add as to how
consent, and
right.
that is a fear. That is a big worry for me, because okay. I never gave them the rights to that data. And this is going to be.
No, Mark, I also want to quickly clarify on how this is going to be done from the reports that we are getting right now. So they don't already have your data. You'll have to register. There is going to be a 3-step registration process through which you will be able to, seamlessly move without actually downloading an app on your phone. So it's not like they have your data. You'll still have to feed in your details.
You know, Shweta, Krishna, spoiler alert, Indian airport security is amongst the strongest and the finest in the world. You know it, I know it, everybody knows it. We've had facial recognition systems working in India since the Mumbai terror attacks in 26/11. Okay, after that we went facial recognition. So the technology has been in existence for more than 15 years. So we're not fooling anybody. It's already there. Our airports are 10 times more smarter than probably all of us put together. Yeah. But the basic premise is this really going to improve efficiency in an airport? Mm-hmm. You're still, is that Digi Yatra going to speed up the check-in process? The world standard is 35 to 45 seconds per passenger per check-in. So okay. You got it for 400 passenger flight, it's 400 multiplied by 45 seconds. But guess what? In India, it takes 3 minutes, sometimes 5 minutes. It takes our airport security check by CISF is not adequately manned because the airport operator doesn't want to pay CISF for more people. We're standing for 45 minutes for immigration because again, you don't want to pay the immigration authorities to come and man more posts. So how on earth is this going to be so, is it going to be a radical, dramatic change to improving efficiency? It's not. It clearly appears to be, as we all are smart enough to realize, it's a gimmick. It's nothing but a stunt to try and show that we're so advanced and automated. But guess what? You're not fixed the rudimentary problem of sorting out how effective is the airport functioning. And I still can't get why hasn't ERA or the Minister of Civil Aviation thrown the book at Delhi International Airport for managing such insane inefficiencies. Now, Delhi Airport doesn't realize, because if I'm going to take a flight and I got to spend 2 hours or 2 hours 45 minutes dealing with airport procedures, well, guess what? They're going to lose money because I won't have any time left for duty free or buying, snackies and gifts or something for the flight. So they don't, it's sad is that hasn't resonated in their minds yet. But as a vibrant democracy that we are, where we elect leaders, even the Ministry of Civil Aviation is accountable to us as citizens of this country, as a traveling public. And that action needs to be translated more strongly. DigiYatra is all fine. Those are, that's jam and jelly. But bread and butter means that you need to have an efficient airport. If you don't have an efficient airport, then DigiYatra and all the knickknacks and bells and whistles really mean nothing end of the day.
Okay, fair enough. And Krishna, I think it's an important concern. It's an important concern to all those who are hoping to take a flight or have taken a flight in the past, because you often have to queue up, especially now post-COVID, when the number of people going back to airports is in fact more than during our pre-COVID levels. And therefore, the concern is that you arrive, even if on time, and you've expected to arrive at least 2 to 3 hours prior to the departure time, you are still met with long queues. There seems to be an inefficiency at play here, and I don't know who to blame it on, but it is a problem to me as a customer, as somebody who's traveling, as a frequent flyer, and I'm sure to a lot of other people. How do you really mitigate these problems? Because these problems with checking in, and as Mark pointed out, from a few seconds that you take abroad to a couple of minutes to about 30 minutes that you can take, I mean, and that's a lot of time wasted. That's a lot of time wasted for me. So I would rather take a train than take a flight. So all in all, it's a lose-lose business for people who are operating airlines if they don't make it easier for an average person to get in through the security points, to check in quickly and board the flight quickly. So it becomes a losing business.
Right, but the funny thing is that we've discussed how our airports are so much better than some of the Western airports. We've done it so well during the pandemic. We're just talking about our first 10 to 15 minute inconvenience. It's not a lose-lose because we've done so many things well. We're just fixing this entry into the airport kind of a situation. And there are inefficiencies within the airports that need to be fixed, that are being fixed over a period of time. So I would say the growth in airports that's been witnessed, say, the last decade or so, we're just waking up to the fact that we need double the number of airports that we do right now. So, which means that systems and processes are at a very early stage of evolution. DigiYatra, in the sense that, for all the questions that you asked, the idea from the government was DigiYatra is one of the answers to the questions that you asked. How do you get into the airport fast enough? We are giving you DigiYatra. Why don't you try it out? And so many people did try it out, DigiYatra, and they did benefit from DigiYatra because they just registered with their PNR on the app, and they just walked inside straight away. They didn't have to stand in long queues. And then there were memes about how now so many people are using DigiYatra that there's no DigiYatra queues happening. But it's only because you have that volume of traffic entering Indian airports. It's not, and when you want more airlines, and when you want more and more airlines, you're talking about the footfall in airports doubling and trebling in the way forward. So there needs to be systems and processes that can handle that kind of traffic. My question here at this stage is that how far along are we in that process in terms of planning for the times ahead when Go First will be back on air, Jet Airways will be back on air, so many more people, even more than now, will be taken to the skies. So I believe, I'm optimistic as always, that we are in an early stage of evolution. So DigiYatra, I think, will also go through its stages of evolution. Right now, they realize the fact that you can't force people to download an app at any stage. So, but then those people do use the airports. So what happens to them? So that's why the solution, no app needed, just use this and you can get inside the airport through DigiYatra faster. So let's hope there are more and more serious reformation in airport efficiencies that Martin Martin was talking about, more inside the airport, which makes the process much faster from the time you enter the airport to the time you take the flight.
Fair enough. And Mark, before I let you go, I think it's a fair enough assessment that the number of people who are entering airport are way more now as compared to what they were even until prior to COVID. So the idea that the demand is higher than what we are able to supply at this point in time, and we need long-term plans for that.
No, I think Krishna brought up a very important point where our airports, I think we need to understand why our airports getting choked. Now, we've added 50 regional airports all across the country. We've got a Jabalpur, a Bhagalpur, we've upgraded airports in the Northeast, we've created new airports where none existed. Now, we're also flying there, right? So when a flight takes off from a Jagdalpur or a Bhagalpur or wherever it is, it has to land somewhere. It's not going to take off and land back at the same airport. Now, we have created this 45 airports across the country, and those flights from those airports are going to go over to a Delhi and Mumbai. But here's my point. Why are these airports packed and choked? Is because we're not physically expanding those airports anymore. एक बार बना लिया तो बना लिया, बस इसको चलाओ 50 साल के लिए. So we brought private operators with the whole intent of taking care of that load, that demand, that throughput. If we're in the same situation than to what AI was 25 years ago, then guess what? We were better off with AI because they did a better job from that fundamental. Yeah. Okay. So clearly what needs to be done, and the only solution, guys, the only solution to making our airports efficient is, I think we all know that there was supposed to be a T4 coming up in Delhi airport, right? We were supposed to have a mirror terminal of T3 right opposite. There was going to be a T4. Where on earth is T4?
So Mark, essentially you're saying that create more airports, bigger airports, efficiency will follow automatically, because at the end of the day, traffic is only growing.
We got to get rid of that 150 kilometer rule. I mean, we really can't have a GMR reside on a monopoly. A city like Delhi needs more airports. We need at least 2 or 3 airports. Only then we can effectively control the kind of traffic we're handling. If we are the world's 3rd largest aviation market after China and the US, I mean, obviously we have to back it with infrastructure, or otherwise where are you going to land these aircraft? We have created regional airports. They feed into primary airports, and we're not expanding primary airports. We're going on forcing in people. Obviously it's going to choke, right?
Absolutely no disagreement on that, Mark. Absolutely no disagreement on that. And this is a conversation we can have for hours and hours, because this is interesting and important conversation. It basically caters to the need of the people, the demand that is out there, and where we can do better as far as our civil aviation infrastructure is concerned. But we're running short on time. Really appreciate you joining us this morning with your inputs on that story. We're going to shift focus for now. Users traced as many as 2.5 lakh missing phones using DOT, which is the Department of Telecommunications AI portal. This is an important story, Krishna. We talked extensively about the new CERN system that DOT created. Essentially, you can download an app, and it's as easy as that, and you can figure out where your phone is. You'll of course have to feed in all the details, but there is an infrastructure here being created for the first time for missing phones. All of us deal with it. Phones get stolen. Sometimes you just leave it behind if you're traveling and you never find it. But this system here, created by Department of Telecommunication, essentially Government of India, allowing users to find phones, to block them and to trace them. In fact, about 5 lakh phones, the data here suggests, have been blocked. 2.5 lakh phones have been found. Great numbers.
Fantastic numbers, especially for people like me who lose phones all the time, and it's fantastic. And also, you do on the iPhones, you do have the Find My iPhone app.
That is correct.
And now you have, now you have a government-backed one, and it's a wonderful consumer initiative, because the number of phones that get misplaced, because at the end of the day, we do live in the age of attention deficiency disorders. People misplace phones in cabs, in movie halls. They carry it everywhere and they leave it everywhere too. So the fact that the government and the Department of Telecommunications stepped in, and for once, artificial intelligence is doing wonders to humankind
Right.
by filling up whenever human intelligence sort of dropped off, and recover as well. So great news in terms of the use of artificial intelligence, and for consumers like me who keep losing phones all the time.
Absolutely, and this is less than a month since the Central Equipment Identity Register, also called as CEIR, that's the acronym that was launched by Department of Telecommunication under the Sanchar Sathi portal. You can download the app, you can fill in all your details, and if you lose your phone at all, you can alert the officials, the government, the authorities, and they will find your phone for you. Less than a month since it was launched, more than 2.5 lakh phones have now been recovered. Great news there, and of course one of the top stories that we're tracking here on News9. But with that, it's a wrap. Thanks very much for watching.